I recently made a video about a feminist named Anita Sarkeesian, who has been making a series of videos about sexism in video games called Tropes vs. Women in Video Games. The video was made to expose several of Anita's lies about being a gamer. I put a link to it in the description. The video got Anita's attention, and she has since responded to it on Twitter. This video is going to counter her responses, and my next video will shed some more light on some of her dubious business practices. These videos won't be as much of a smoking gun as what I brought you last time, but I hope they will be interesting. Firstly, I would like to respond to the wall of defensive comments Anita has thrown up in response to my first video. She has made no less than 7 tweets about it. The first one claims that the reason she's being attacked is because sexist male gamers want to bravely defend the status quo. The real reason, of course, is her dishonesty, an issue she doesn't address at all and gracefully sweeps under the rug with accusations of misogyny. She then goes on to complain that the sexism in gaming culture has dogged her whole life, and has often been so overpowering that it drove her away from games for years at a time, causing her to have a love-slash-hate relationship with gaming. Anita has responded to these accusations, not with contradictory evidence, but by trying to guilt us and appeal to feminist sympathy. She's claiming to be just an innocent victim. I want to focus on 2 tweets in particular she made. She says, "I've had a love-slash-hate relationship with gaming over the years. I've even taken breaks. But I've always come back hoping it would get better. Whenever I've felt disillusioned, something amazing has come along like Portal, Mirror's Edge or Gone Home that reminds me of what's possible. I have evidence to suggest that even this isn't true. First, I'd like to share some background information. As it happens, I just finished reading every tweet Anita has ever made since she started tweeting in July of 2009, up until her Tropes vs. Women in Video Games project was launched. I've also read every Facebook post she's made since she started using Facebook in 2010. I've done a bit of corroborating research as well. One thing I've discovered is that, in the nearly 3 years leading up to when she begins research for her Kickstarter project, she mentions playing video games precisely once. Apparently, she really enjoyed Angry Birds. Beyond that, there's little mention of video games at all, except for her advertising for her feminist frequency videos about Bayonetta and iPhone games. At one point, she mentions how happy she is that Dragon Age 2 has gay romance options in it. That's about it though. The rest of her time is dedicated to talking about television shows, movies, comic books, public figures, and political issues, mostly about how sexist they are. She never seemed to have the time for video games, until recently. Returning to her tweet, Anita mentions Portal, Mirror's Edge, and Gone Home as games that helped get her back into gaming. Let's start with the game Portal. Portal was developed by Valve Software, and came out in 2007 as part of a game collection called the Orange Box. It was originally only released for Steam on the PC, yet the Orange Box was later released for consoles in early 2008. Let's look at Anita's Steam library, which she posted to her Tumblr early this year. No Portal. Let's try taking a look at her research games. On Anita's website, she claims that these are the research materials she bought with her Kickstarter money. In this pile, we can see the Orange Box, as well as Portal 2. Both games are for the Xbox 360, and the Orange Box in this picture is a brand new copy of the Platinum Hits version, which came out in early 2010. It would appear Anita didn't get around to actually playing Portal until her research demanded it. Portal 2, on the other hand, came out in April of 2011. Anita's tweets reveal she didn't play it until after she began research on her Kickstarter project in early 2012. Let's now look at the game Mirror's Edge. Anita frequently talks about how great Mirror's Edge is, and has said in several interviews that it's one of her favorite games. She likes it so much, that she was able to convince EA to let her give them input on how to design Mirror's Edge 2. Analysis of her old tweets shows that Anita didn't actually play Mirror's Edge until she started working on her Tropes vs. Women in Video Games project. Mirror's Edge came out in 2008, and she didn't end up playing it until 2012. As with Portal, this seems somewhat inconsistent with something that reinvigorated her interest in video games, as she was awfully late to the party, and showed up at a rather conspicuous time. But wait, it gets better. Let's take another look at her Too Many Dicks in Video Games video, that you saw in my last video.
There's too many dicks on the dance floor!
Too many dicks on the dance floor. Too many dicks on the dance floor.
Too many men, too many boys, too many misters, not enough sisters.
Hold up right there. The character you are looking at is Faith from Mirror's Edge. Faith is shown in the video as an example of positive female characterization to counter all of the excessive dudes and their gun dicks. Yet, Anita made this video back in 2010, 2 years before she played Mirror's Edge. So, let me get this straight. Anita understood the importance of Mirror's Edge as a landmark game for female characterization all the way back in 2010, yet, for some strange reason, had absolutely no interest in playing it until her Tropes vs. Women research compelled her to in 2012. Again, it seems very curious that the rekindling of her interest in gaming only happened at this one moment in time when she stood to profit from it. As for Gone Home, by the time it came out this year, she was well into her project and her persona as a gamer. Anyhow, I find it interesting that Anita went from essentially not mentioning video games at all for 3 years and several thousand tweets, to suddenly talking about them all the time, conspicuously beginning from the time she started doing research for her Tropes vs. Women videos, in March of 2012. She now talks constantly about all of the latest games that come out, about E3 and all the big game conferences, as well as all sorts of social justice stuff involving video games that she was never interested in before. One example is that she recently mentioned the infamous Penny Arcade Dick Wolves controversy, yet made no mention of it on Twitter when it actually happened back in 2010. So, we seem to have caught Anita in yet another lie about her history as a gamer. While this video may not seem to mean much in and of itself, when combined with all the other revelations about Anita that have come to light, it helps to paint a very damning picture of her. I hope this has given you some stuff to think about. That concludes this video. In my next video, I'm going to go over a couple of older issues with Anita that I feel haven't gotten enough exposure. Everything I mentioned here is linked in the description below. Peace.